Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm here in the legal heart of London, just a stone's throw away from the Law Society and a short walk from the Royal Courts of Justice and the Old Bailey, that is the Central Criminal Court. Why? Well, because today I am going to talk to you a little bit about the Inns of Court and actually visit one in particular. So let's go. There are four Inns of Courts: the Honourable Society of Lincoln's Inn, the Honourable Society of Inner Temple, the Honourable Society of Middle Temple, and the Honourable Society of Gray's Inn. Today I'm here at Gray's Inn. Now, the Inns of Courts date back for centuries. They've been around for a very long time. But their role has, of course, changed over the years. Today, they are membership and educational bodies which provide training and support to their members and students. If you visit an Inn of Court, you'll probably see a lot of people walking around, and many of them will be barristers. But how do you become a barrister, and what exactly are they? To become a barrister, there are several stages of training to undertake. First of all, you must carry out a law degree or a graduate diploma in law, a GDL. Next, all students who hope to become barristers must join an Inn of Court before commencing the next stage of their training. The next stage is to complete the Bar Professional Training Course, or BPTC for short. Successful students who pass their examinations and complete this stage will then be called to the bar by an Inn of Court. The Inns of Courts have the exclusive right to call their members to the bar. And they do this when the members have successfully completed all their examinations for a career at the bar. However, upon being called to the bar, there is still another requirement. Ones who successfully complete the BPTC must secure and complete a pupillage. This is a probationary stage in which they must work for 12 months in chambers under supervision before they can become fully fledged barristers. And when student members, when trainee barristers undertake this pupillage, they are known as pupils. So, what are barristers? Well, in the UK, we do have a distinction between barristers and solicitors, the two types of lawyers. The traditional distinction is that barristers practice advocacy in courts, whereas solicitors carry out more transactional matters outside of court. However, nowadays the distinction is not quite as clear-cut, because in fact solicitors do have rights of audience in the lower courts, and they can also exercise these rights in the higher courts once they comply with particular assessment requirements. Another distinction could be that barristers work in chambers. Chambers are what we call the offices where self-employed barristers work, and they are located in the respective Inns of Court. So here we do find many sets of chambers. On the other hand, solicitors generally work in law firms, and a common business structure of law firms is a limited liability partnership, or LLP for short. However, this distinction again is also not so clear-cut because many barristers are actually employed. They work for organisations or bodies or institutions such as the Crown Prosecution Service. And on the other hand, solicitors also don't always work for law firms. They can carry out a range of activities and work for a range of organisations. For example, many work in-house for companies. So let's take a closer look. I'm going to show you a few places in Gray's Inn and talk to you a little bit more about what we find here and some of the quirks that we can see. So let's go. Stood now on Gray's Inn Square, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that you can find here. So first of all, as I've already mentioned, we find chambers here, the barristers' offices or sets of chambers. We also find some administrative buildings where the Inns of Court have their official offices, and we may also find a bar. Now, by bar, I don't mean the legal term bar relating to the legal profession of barristers as a whole, but rather the general English term, the bar, where you go for a drink after a hard day's litigation. So here at Gray's Inn, there is a private bar for students, members and benchers. And a bencher means a senior member who has been elected to be involved in the running of the inn. There is normally a large dining hall where barristers and members and students can, of course, eat and attend formal events. There is also normally a library for members and students. And as well as that, sometimes we find residential properties where barristers actually live. So that's about the inns in general. What about this particular court? Well, this particular Inn of Court is the smallest of all the Inns of Courts, and I am told that apparently it's very friendly here. It's got a very nice atmosphere. It's supposedly the friendliest of all the Inns of Courts. And students, pupils and barristers all receive quite a lot of support here. There are apparently quite a lot of scholarships available for pupil barristers. Historically, it's had some really big legal names who have been members here. And even still today, there are lots of big names, lots of big players in the legal field who are currently members here. Past and present members include many High Court judges and former Lord Chief Justice John Thomas. Currently, Baroness Hale, the UK's first female president of the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom, is a bencher here. So some interesting stories to tell are, firstly, Charles Dickens, way back in the 19th century, when he was about 15 years old, was actually a clerk in one of the chambers here. And if I turn around slightly, you'll be able to see a building. I'll just turn around. So here, behind me, there is a building which is both a working chapel on the one side, and then on the other side it is a dining hall. It's Gray's Inn Hall, and inside there are a number of rooms which are available for functions, for inn functions, and for private hire. So if you have a very special event coming up where you need an extra special venue, then I think you've got it right here. I think it would be pretty cool to have an event here. What do you think? So I'm just going to go round to the other side and talk a little bit about this particular building. So here behind me is Gray's Inn Hall, and here, way back in the 16th century, Shakespeare's Comedy of Errors, his great comedic play, actually premiered here. That means that it was put on for the first time. So it's not too much of a stretch of the imagination to imagine what it would have been like back in the days when Charles Dickens was walking around here, or even when Shakespeare was walking around here, because really, when you come to an Inn of Court, it is a bit like stepping back in time. However, I must say that these buildings could fool you, because many of them aren't actually that old. Gray's Inn, for example, was heavily bombed during World War II, during the Blitz, and in fact many of the buildings here were built after World War II. Now, something which is a bit off topic, but as we're here I might as well point it out. Let's take a closer look at something over here. So here, right here, I'm stood next to a 19th century watering pump, which basically means that in the olden days when we didn't have taps to bring us water, we instead used these watering pumps. You'd have to go and collect your water from a pump just like this pump here. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm very happy that we do have taps nowadays, and I certainly wouldn't want to be stood out here in the cold winter months queuing to collect my water before a hard day ahead at court. What do you think? And finally, one other thing worth pointing out, which you can kind of see just behind me there, and which I'll zoom in a minute to, it's the griffin. Now, the griffin is the badge, it's the symbol of Gray's Inn, and a griffin combines the courageousness of the lion with the boldness of the eagle. I'm sure this is very apt for all Gray's Inn members, who I'm sure are very brave and bright people. So I'll zoom in so that you can take a look, and once you know that the griffin is the symbol of Gray's Inn, you start to see it literally everywhere. So that's the end of this video. I hope you've found it useful and you've enjoyed watching it. Don't forget to leave any comments or questions below. So thanks for watching and see you next time.